It was nearing December on the island of Sodor. The engines were working very hard, trying to keep to time, but Sir Topham Hatt was very concerned, so he decided to get help. That evening, he spoke to the engines at the sheds. I realize this has been a busy year with the, delays and whatnot. However, I know that you need help, so I have found some engines that are willing to help us during this busy time of the year. Who would they be, sir? Let's just say they're engines that have come to the island and have helped us in the past. After all, they too are well known in most parts of the world, much like us. Sir Topham Hatt walked back to his office, leaving the engines puzzled and confused. They decided to rest, for another long day's work was waiting for them. The next morning, Edward arrived at Wellsworth and saw an unfamiliar sight outside the yards. To work, to work. Hello there. Who are you? The name's Tower, old Blue. I am Edward. Where did you come from? Sir Topham Hatt brought me and my friends over to help you. Wait, you're saying there's more towers than you? Incorrect, old man. You must be one of the new engines Sir Topham Hatt brought here. My name is Farnsworth, an express passenger diesel that takes very fine people wherever they need to go. So do I, Junior. I resent that statement. I don't know who's more prissier, you, Farnsworth, or Spencer. I chuckled, leaving Farnsworth red with embarrassment over the insult. Later, Toby was taking on water when another engine popped beside him. Hello there. You must be new. My name is Jebediah, old-fashioned and wise like you. I have heard about you. You have? I feel honored, Jebediah. The two engines chatted like old friends. Elsewhere, Emily was chugging along with her passengers until...
Bother now, I'll be late.
Don't worry, I'll get you to the next station.
Thank you, Georgie, you're amazing.
I had a similar problem delivering a birthday train well over 30 years ago, so I know the feeling of breaking down.
Meanwhile, Donald and Douglas were double-heading a goods train towards Vickerstown when Pete rolled by with a very heavy train of his own. You clowns think you can get this train to your destination in time? Watch me. I'll show you how things are done here. Pete was teasing, but to Donald and Douglas, they were offended. So they strained to pick up speed, but unfortunately, it was not their luckiest day. That's Pete! It's his fault we're in this mess. Wait a minute, who's that? Hello, you two need a buffer? Doc helped the Scottish twins to the end of the line, then sent them to the works for repairs. Back in the yards, I was talking to Thomas, when he saw a tank engine he had not seen in a very long time. Tilly? Is that you? You know her, Thomas? After a great explanation, Tilly arrived, cheery as always. Tilly, how have you been? Your brave heroics delivering that birthday train 30 years ago and fending that horrid engine 10 years prior.
Thank you, Thomas. So, need a hand with the shunting?
It would be my pleasure, Tilly. Wait, is Tilly your sister or girlfriend? She's a friend! Nothing more, Brandon. I puffed away, chuckling at my own shit, as Tower was controlling traffic on the road bridge at Wellsworth. Farnsworth was about to pass through with his own express to Marin Station. The signals were all green, and the proud express diesel made its way past Crosby. Wow, that was quick. Was Farnsworth oiling the Great Western Way, or most likely the wrong way? Oliver had to agree, as Farnsworth meanwhile was struggling. His engine was beginning to make a loud vibration noise. His driver was concerned, but the diesel struggled on, trying to shrug it off. Nearly there. Can't let these fine people down. Then it happened. Farnsworth was halfway up Gordon's Hill when his engine finally overheated and he had to stop. The train was at a standstill, blocking the line with nowhere for Farnsworth to go. This is so humiliating. What will I ever do now? The guard ran back down the hill to the signal box and telephoned for help at Tidmouth. At Tidmouth, Thomas was talking to Tilly. Wow, that was a great deal of shunting we did.
Indeed, Thomas, it was amazing.
Their conversation was interrupted. Doc arrived with bad news. I just came back from Gordon's Hill. Farnsworth is broken down. There are no engines available except you, Tilly. Can you do it? Can I help? But then Thomas realized he was needed here to finish the shunting. If you need help, Tilly, I won't hesitate to assist once the shunting is completed. You got this, Tilly. Reminds me of when I had to take a passenger train on a broken valve gear. Your hike you had recently was amazing, Henry. Same with your stay in that tunnel. Henry blushed with embarrassment. We all have faith in you. Tilly, you can do it. A promise is a promise, and you must keep it. Just try to not get your paint ruined. James, did you really have to? What? Then the signal dropped, and Tilly made her way to Gordon's Hill to save Farnsworth. On the way, I saw Tilly while resting in a siding. I cheered her on, saying, You got this, Tilly. If you could bring a birthday train over a dangerous mountain to a nice little town, then you can save Farnsworth and his passengers. Tilly, feeling confident by Thomas's motivation, puffed away to save Farnsworth. Meanwhile, still stranded, Doc inspected the diesel for the origin of the problem. It was not hard to find. A piece of the engine broke off, causing you to overheat and break down. Don't worry. Once help arrives, you'll arrive to the works in style. Gladly appreciated. Though I wonder who's going to... But Farnsworth was interrupted by a very familiar whistle. Tilly had arrived. Do you expect me to be rescued by a shunting tank engine? It's either that or a long walk for the passengers, Farnsworth. Farnsworth silenced at the dreadful threat as Tilly buffered to the back of the train and started to push Farnsworth and his coaches up the hill. Passing engines saw what Tilly was doing and were impressed. They cheered and blew their whistles, horns, and bells in appreciation. At last, tired but triumphant, Tilly finally ascended over the hill and onwards to the next station. It was hard and tiring work, but at last, Tilly made it to Kronk Station. Just in time, Gordon was waiting to depart with the express where he saw everything. Well then, Farnsworth, seems Tilly gave you a run for his money. Well, at least I am not a silver show-off unlike your prissy cousin. Spencer has changed since then, Junior. Now I must be off. Goodbye now. And Gordon left, leaving Farnsworth blushing with embarrassment. Tilly, I am sorry for doubting you all these years, especially today. You did very well, but now I have to be repaired now. And that's exactly where you will be going, Farnsworth, said a very familiar voice. I hope this will teach you not doubting others. If Tilly hadn't come to save you, it would have been a very long walk or a bus for certain. And Sir Topman turned on his heel and walked sternly away, pissed, but not as pissed as he was in previous conversations. Henry took Farnsworth to the works, and Pete came to take Farnsworth's coaches back to the yard. Tilly rested in a siding, refueling on water, but had concern as because of the cold weather, she may not get enough water she needed for the journey back to the sheds. Fortunately, this didn't happen, and Tilly made her way back to the yard. At the works, Henry dropped Farnsworth off before leaving to collect his goods train. Farnsworth was sulking as he was being repaired. Then Pete arrived to get his tubes checked out. Oh, for Pete's sake, Pete, watch that smoke! That's why I came here to get my tubes clean that way. I don't make such a dusty mess. I also suppose you're here to laugh at me for my incident on the hill, and no, Farnsworth, I am not. Look, it's great you and Tilly put your differences aside. Just remember we all have an important job on Sodor to bring passengers and goods to where they need to go. And don't worry, our railway is doing very well without us. At least that's the last I heard. Then who's going to pull my passengers while I'm being repaired? I was told to do your work as well as my own. You will be overloaded. Break down surely that golden Henry. They have their own work to focus on. Don't worry. If they pulled your coaches, it would be quite a sight to behold. Well, that's my cue. Have some freight to pull. Talk to you later, Farnsworth. And Pete popped grandly away, leaving Farnsworth with much to think about. Meanwhile, Thomas was puffing down the main line with Annie and Clarabelle. The cold winds were biting, but Thomas didn't mind. He had a very warm firebox keeping him steaming. Then they approached the viaduct. The wind was howling. It was so windy, Thomas's fire went out, and he nearly came off the tracks. Thomas, Annie, Clarabelle, and his passengers were stranded at Nafford Station. Sir Topmet was pacing the platform, anxious and worried. Thomas has not returned. We can only assume he is stranded. Can we and Dougie go find him, sir? Yeah, just like last time, except with the snowplows and that. That's very kind of you, Donald and Douglas. But right now I am extremely worried that Thomas could be, well, anywhere on the island. At Wellsworth, Tilly was shunting when Doc arrived. Tilly, it's Thomas. He's in trouble.
Oh no, Thomas, I must go save him.
It's too windy. But Tilly ran out of earshot. Be careful, Tilly. You're, after all, our little engine that could. Tilly raced over Gordon's Hill and down the other side, racing past Marin Station before she neared the viaduct. It was very windy at this point, and Tilly had to be very careful so she wouldn't come out the rails. Just then, Tilly heard a familiar whistle.
Thomas, is that you?
Yes, Tilly, it's me, over here. Tilly tried to accelerate before a huge gust of wind took the small tank engine by surprise. You can do it, Tilly. Remember all those years ago. Now it's your time to shine once again. I know you can do it, Tilly, because I believe in you. Tilly mustered all the courage she had and remembered her harrowing journey on the mountain 30 years ago.
I think I can.
Tilly slowly but surely edged towards Thomas. By now the wind started to pick up. Then Thomas had an idea. Tilly, lock your brakes. I don't think it's safe in these conditions. You could come off the tracks. Thomas was right. All that he and Tilly could do was to wait until the wind died down. At Nafford Station, Sir Topmet became increasingly concerned. Where is Tilly? She should be back by now. In these conditions, sir, it's so hard to say. However, I am optimistic that Tilly is being the bravest engine out there trying to find and save Thomas. I hope so, Edward. I do hope so. Tilly and Thomas were waiting out the winds, their crews huddled tightly inside their cabs, and Thomas's passengers inside Annie and Clarabelle were panicking. The guard tried to calm the passengers down, but to no avail. It seemed like an eternity. But at last, the winds died down, and everyone breathed a huge sigh of relief. Phew, that was close.
Now I will try to rescue you, Thomas, before the wind picks up.
Don't worry, Tilly. The wind is supposed to become as is for the rest of the day.
That's a relief.
Tilly approached Thomas and was coupled up. Tilly pulled Thomas and his two coaches off the viaduct and towards Nafford Station. Thomas was very impressed. Well done, Tilly. You are a really useful engine.
Thank you, Thomas, just being there for any engine in need.
They soon passed Marin Station and were approaching Gordon's Hill once more. Tilly summoned a brave effort and made it to the top of the hill with no mishap, or so she thought. When they descended, it happened. Tilly's brakes had jammed and was sliding down the hill at a tremendous rate. Oh dear, we're going to crash, I just know it! Tilly tried her best, but when they got past Wellsworth, Tilly's brakes became unjammed and the train was back under control. Great job, Tilly! The passengers, guard, and crews cheered Tilly onwards as she continued to pull the train towards the big station. At the big station, Farnsworth had arrived. His engine was repaired and was back in service. It's great being back in service again. how were my passengers and coaches? They quite enjoyed my company. Perhaps Sir Topham will make me the permanent express engine. I resent that statement, Pete. Everyone, now is not the time to argue. We have to be very concerned of Thomas, Tilly, and the passengers. Sir Topham nodded in agreement. I will wait 1 more minute but Sir Topham was interrupted by a familiar whistle in the distance. That sounds like Tilly. And Thomas! The engines clamped and cheered as a tired and weary Tilly dragged Thomas, Annie, and Clarabelle towards the platform. Sir Topham greeted them warmly. Well done, Tilly. You braved a nasty situation to save Thomas and his passengers. You are a really useful engine. And the little engine that could once more, added Edward.
Thank you all so much. I did it once more. And it was worth it.
Everyone agreed with Tilly's sentiment. Then Sir Topham made an announcement. 30 years ago today, a little engine braved a dangerous mountain, overcame obstacles, and survived a nasty avalanche to deliver a birthday train to the little village on the other side of the mountain. This engine's name was Tilly, and to her credit, she had a lot of similarities to our number 1 engine, Thomas. Much like Thomas, Tilly shunted trucks and coaches for the others to take on long journeys. But now, once again, after this time has proven once again, she is not only a really useful engine, but the little engine that could. Everyone clapped, cheered, and celebrated. Thomas even offered to share his branch line with Tilly. To his surprise, Tilly accepted, which Sir Topham agreed strongly with the proposal. So, what now, sir? Are the engines going to stay, or... Well, Henry, I've given considerate thought, and yes, they will stay so long as their railway agrees. To the engine's happiness, the railway agreed to the proposal. Tilly shares duties with Thomas on his branch line. Jebediah takes the milk in case Toby and Daisy are overworked. Farnsworth pulls his own express to assist Gordon. Pete helps engines like Henry and the heavier mainline engines with goods work. Georgia helps engines like James with their duties. And Doc assists engines like Mickey and Joey in case an engine or person is injured, caught by the law, or if there is an emergency to attend to. As for Tower, well, he remained at Wellsworth until he was relocated to Whiff's waste dump because of the constant noise complaints from the neighboring houses close to the station. All of the Sodor engines were extremely impressed, and the heroic tale of Tilly rescuing Thomas and his passengers that cold blustery day will always be a tale to remember. Meanwhile, Sir Topham was thinking about someone he hadn't considered in a very long time. Ever since En route's demise, it's hard to find an advisor to the railway board. The last thing I want to see is another betrayal amongst my railway staff, regardless if it's an engine or a person, unless... That's it. I know just the person to talk to. Sir Topham was on the telephone. He was speaking to 2 well-known railway executives who recently moved back to France. Sir Topham hoped that they would succeed the deceased Owen Ruth after the trouble he caused earlier this month. But who was the person Sir Topham was referring to? Well, that's a story for another day.